Visit themonstertrain.com to sign up for the free beta and join the fight to save hell.
Hello everyone, I'm Mark Cook. I'm the CEO of Shiny Shoe. We are the creators of Monster Train, working with our partners at Good Shepherd Entertainment. And today I am happy to be here again to stream some additional information as to what's going on with the latest on Monster Train as we lead up to our release in the, next few weeks, let's say. We're planning to release in Q2 2020 still, so it's coming soon. We haven't announced a specific date yet, though. And today what I'm going to be doing is going through the logbook primarily to look at a few of the clans and talk about strategy. So we'll look at a bunch of different cards, we'll talk about different game mechanics, and we'll talk about how those things can kind of work together to craft a strategy that you can try to build towards while you're playing your runs. The one kind of bad piece of information I have is that personally, I have a fever right now. It's a mild one. I'm pretty sure it's not COVID-19 because I don't have any of the other symptoms. Medicine is working, but that does mean that we're going to keep the stream a little bit shorter than normal because I really just want to go lay down in bed. So with that said, let's get started. So here we go. We're popping over to Monster Train. For anybody not familiar with the game, it is a roguelite deck builder, run-based game. You play it over and over. You unlock new cards. You combine the 5 clans of hell that we have in the game right now with a primary and an allied clan. You choose 2 of them. That kind of sets the conditions for what your deck will start with, what you can get over the course of the run, what types of artifacts, which are the passive benefits you'll find. And then ultimately your goal is to restore the flames of hell, because hell is under attack from the forces of heaven. The Gilded Wing are trying to destroy hell, and you're trying to restore it. All right. But before I even move on to the logbook, looks like we have some questions. So, OHB says, what accessibility options have or are you putting into the game? Well, in terms of accessibility options, that's a really interesting question. So, there's not much voiceover in the game. I'm just going to rattle them off, just stream of consciousness. The only voiceover in the game is in the introductory FMV that kind of sets up the world. In that, we have subtitles that are defaulted to turn on, and all the languages we support have subtitles. We have tried to make the game playable with the mouse everywhere, and I think that's true right now, or any other pointing device. I got a Microsoft Surface, one of the older ones actually, to try to reproduce a bug that was reported in the public beta, that intro FMV I just mentioned was kind of choppy or running at low performance on certain devices, and that was one that somebody on Discord had pointed out to me. And so we fixed the issue with the FMV, so that's running smoothly now. But I was like, I'm just going to play the game with touch. So you can play the game with touch on a Surface tablet or presumably any other Windows-based touchscreen device currently. And it doesn't work perfectly, but it works pretty darn well. So that's an option that makes the game more accessible, I think. We support keyboard and key mapping, and you can't play the entire game with the keyboard, but you can play a lot of it. So quite a few dialogues and like playing cards and so on can be done with the keyboard. So hopefully that also helps create a bit of a more accessible game for people. And what was the last thing on my mind? We did just make one change. So the version of the game that I'm running here is not the public beta, it's the full version. Somebody who was colorblind pointed out that 2 of the map rewards, the one that allows you to duplicate a card and the one that allows you to purge 2 cards out of your deck, look too similar. They have different color, but their silhouette and shape was relatively similar. So we made a change just in the last few days. We changed what one of those 2 looks like to make it more obvious for people suffering from color blindness. So accessibility is on our mind. We want this to be an accessible game. I hope that gives like a decent overview. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what you were thinking, and I'm happy to take specific questions. I mean, and just other things like the ability to change sound, the ability to turn some options on and off related to how the controls work, like whether or not you scroll up and down rooms when you're moving your mouse in certain ways. Anyways, it's like things that some people have identified as things that they want. We have a bunch of those things in the settings. So, all right, moving on. King Dom Cody asks, hey Mark, you've shown off the Spriggans, he said, but it's the Stygian. The Stygian Guard is the name of the monster clan. And talked about the Morsel clan. Can you give us some insider info into what the 5th clan is? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, can I? I have the knowledge to do so, but I don't know if I'm allowed to. In terms of like our kind of marketing plan with revealing information about the monster clans. But the theme of the one clan that you did not mention is its death, basically. So benefits that the player gets from their own units dying. So yeah, I think I'll just leave it there for today, and we'll be revealing more in the near future. All right. Jay Silver 2006 asks, will you add controller support in the future? I hope so. So there's no specific plans to do that before the game launches, but I hope we will. So that's where that's at right now. Amphi DSF asks, I just tried to click single player while you were streaming. Well, that is not going to work. I can click it for you. There you go. I clicked it. And why don't we just open the logbook while we're sitting here? All right. Mace Window 215 says, what kind of price range are we looking at when it releases? The current expected price, we've announced this on Discord, is $30 US and something different if you're not in the US. And I don't know what all the currency conversions are around the world. So whatever that, like, if a game is normally $30 in the US, whatever that translates to in the region that you're in, that's what we're currently thinking. All right. Cottontail234 asks, will you have more quality options for performance in the main game? Right now, no. There are no plans for any additional options. There's really only 2 things that affect GPU performance. One is a just on-off toggle that turns off some full screen effects around like some motion blur, some light motion blur in the game for the 3D background and things like that. And you can lower the resolution if you need to, the rendering resolution, just so that you're shading less pixels overall. I guess there's no specific reason why we didn't like separate that out into more different options. It's just really like there's not many things that we're turning off when you go into the low quality mode. And we tried to include everything that we thought would allow us to hit a decent frame rate on especially like integrated graphics like Intel HD series GPUs, to make sure that those could run at least 30 FPS in most cases. So that was kind of the goal with our performance settings, because anybody with a gamer GPU, like even a 10-year-old NVIDIA GPU, like runs the game at 60 FPS. So it's not, we're not like pushing the limits of graphics fidelity in Monster Train. I think our game looks awesome, but it's not like putting 1 million polygons on the screen every frame. So happy to answer any other follow-up questions on that. All right. Zoom2 asks, are you planning to make the Hell Rush observable once you die? For example, for streamers or for game with friends, it would be amazing to see others' progression. Zoom2, I completely agree. Here, since I'm just answering questions, let's switch back. I completely agree. I would also really like that feature. It's something that we've wanted on the dev team when we've been playing Hell Rush sometimes. But the unfortunate answer is no. There are no immediate plans to do that, and it's due to technical complexity and the fact that the game is not really architected in such a way to make that easy. So it would be a really big amount of work to support spectating in any mode, including Hell Rush. And so as badly as we want to put that into the game, there are no current plans to do that. That might change in the future, but that's where we're currently at with that. All right, Kojuhan asks, why do you cost 5 capacity notches in the overlay? Not in this one, but over here. Well, 5 capacity used to be the max, but as a piece of information that just came up recently in the full version of the game, it's now 6. So 6 capacity is the new maximum. One of the champions from the Umbra clan that we haven't shown much about yet, but can go to 6 capacity with a certain champion upgrade path. But I guess the more capacity, the bigger you are, or something like that. I don't know. Is it a comment about my weight? Who made this overlay? Genesee. All right. We'll leave it at that. Okay. Red Rover 505 asks, will clans have multiple champions to pick from? Right now, no. Each clan has 1 champion, so there's 5 champions in the game. This idea has come up in the past, and I think it's a really cool kind of concept for extending the amount of content and options in the game would be to give each clan one extra champion just to start with. I think that could be a really cool way to kind of try to open up the design space to have more kind of champion upgrade paths that combo with the various clans' mechanics and capabilities. So I love the idea. Nothing to announce at this time, but that does seem like a good way to expand the game after we release. AmphiDSF asks, I need to know, who is driving the train? That's a great question. I don't know. Maybe it's the Pyre Crystal itself. It's sentient. There's probably a real answer to this, and I'm sad that I don't know what it is, but I'll get back to you. We'll post it in Discord. Let's get Redbeard in Discord to answer that question. He is the lore master, so he would be the one I would defer to for the answer on that. All right. Okay, well, let's pause on the questions for just a sec. I'll get back to the ones that have shown up, but let's talk a little bit about strategy. So let's talk about the Stygian Guard. So I'm going to pull up cards in the logbook. And the reason why I'm at least not going to start talking about the Hellhorn or the Awoken is they're in the public beta, and if you've been playing that a lot, you are already familiar with most of the strategies associated with them, although there have been tuning changes since you have played the public beta, and we could go over some of those. But all right, let's look at the Stygian Guard, since it's the newest thing that not everyone has a ton of familiarity with. The champion is Tethys Titansbane, and I've cheated just locally to unlock all of the cards so that we can look through them and look at some of the mechanics of this clan and think about ways that we could combine cards and artifacts in interesting ways. So, with that said, let's look at just kind of sweep through the cards and look at what kind of the main mechanics are for the Stygian Guard. All right, so right away we've got an X-based card, Spike of the Stygian, that applies Sap and Frostbite. So Sap and Frostbite are two unique gameplay mechanics that are solely associated with the Stygian Guard. So Sap is -2 attack per stack, and it decreases every turn. So if an enemy has 2 stacks of Sap, they're going to have -4 attack at the end of the turn. Now they'll have -2 because the stacks decrease by 1, and so on. So it's a way to kind of debuff the attack of enemies, which can be extremely powerful if you are able to stack it up a lot on a boss, especially the flying bosses. So the fact that this is an X card already means it combos well with anything that can increase your Ember, which one of the other clans, the Umbra, that we're not going to look at today, has various ways to increase your Ember quickly. And so there's some synergy there. But yeah, that is Sap. And then Frostbite is a damage over time ability. So the unit takes 1 damage per stack at the end of the turn. And just like all of the status effects, it decreases by 1 every turn. So that is a way for you to, again, it's just like great to stack it up on bosses. It can still be good on normal enemies. Like even a weak enemy, it's pretty easy to get like 2 Frostbite on them. And there are like high attack, low health enemies even later in the game. And if you can get that onto them, then after 1 turn when they climb, they'll die. So Frostbite can sometimes be a mechanic where you don't always want to put your units in the first floor of the train. Because if you're able to consistently apply Frostbite, you can kill units before they even climb, which kind of like nullifies some of those high attack, low health units. So that's a tip for one way to consider using Frostbite. Crystalline Seeds is an AoE Frostbite 5 to everybody in the room, just as another example. So Sap and Frostbite, 2 unique mechanics to Stygian Guard, 2 of their main things. Spell Weakness is another Stygian Guard unique mechanic. So Spell Weakness is another stackable debuff that, when put onto an enemy, makes it so that the amount of damage, well, I'll just read it. It'll explain it better. The next time the unit is hit by a damage spell, the damage it takes is multiplied by the number of stacks. So you can imagine if you were going to deal 5 damage base, if there was... We've been talking about the text on this one. So anyways, if there's 1 spell weakness and you were going to do 5 damage, it would do 10. If there's 2 spell weakness, it will do 15, and so on. So you can stack up some really big combos spell-wise, if you're able to get a lot of spell weakness onto an enemy. Still, I'm going to come back to the questions. Let me just get through this kind of high-level mechanics for Stygian Guard, then I'll jump back to those. All right, Offering Token. This is a really interesting card to look at. I like it a lot because it enables something that we'll look at next. So draw 1, discard 1, and it costs 0 Ember to cast. So you use it, you draw a card first, and then you have to throw something away. So why would you want to do that? Well, one of the other mechanics that's unique to the Stygian Guard is Offering, which let me find a card that has that. Looks like they all got their Ember cost increased. All right, so here we go. An Offering card. And an Offering card means if the card is discarded before the end of your turn, it will instead be played. So this is a discard-based mechanic where if you have Guardian's Amulet in your hand and you are somehow able to discard it, for example, via Offering Token, then Guardian's Amulet, which normally costs 2 Ember, will be cast for free, causing its effect to fire for no Ember. So trying to discard Offering things for big effects for free is like another big part of the Stygian Guard. So we can just see right here, Deep Offering is another discard oriented mechanic. So discard your entire hand and draw 5 more. If you've got multiple Offering cards in your hand when you cast that, you can get some pretty big and pretty cool combos. All right, jumping back to the questions for just a sec. Let's look. I Am Fox asks, is there a relic that, or we're called artifacts in our game, that causes Frostbite to not decrease, similar to the Rage one? Yes! We can look at those real quick. So let's jump over. This is the artifact page of the logbook. So we've got 7 groups. The first group are ones that are generic and can show up in any run. So that's all of these. All of these, I think, are in the public beta. Outside of these 2 ones that we added more recently, which is Lightstone Casing, spells gain an extra upgrade slot, and Pyrestone Housing, units gain an extra upgrade slot. I believe all the rest of these are in the public beta. And then there are clan-specific ones, so Hellhorn Artifacts, Awoken, Stygian, which we'll look at in a sec. The 2 clans we won't look at, and then we've got the Concealed Caverns Artifacts, which are the, some people call them events, but they're the blue crystal caverns that are seen on the map where you can get some pretty unusual effects. All right, but looking at the Stygian Guard artifacts, let's look through them real quick to see how we might conceptualize how these could synergize with some of the card mechanics that I just showed off. So we have a Forgotten Name. When you play your 3rd spell of the turn, all cards gain +1 magic power for the rest of battle. So Magic Power is a clan-agnostic upgrade, but this one, the Stygian Guard in general is like a spell-casting theme, spell-casting clan. So they have a lot of spells, and if you can cast 3 spells in a turn, all damaging and healing, if you combo with the Awoken, all damaging and healing spells get +1 to their effect. So this is a way to, over longer battles especially, increase the damage and power of attack spells and healing spells. So there's some interesting synergy with the Awoken there. The Cuddlebeard. Grant 2+ stacks of Frostbite each time it is applied. This has some similarities to like Railhammer and the Hellhorned, which grants you +4 stacks of armor each time it's applied. So it's a way to accelerate your ability to put Frostbite onto enemies. All right, Founding Seal. We didn't talk about Incant yet, but we can go back and look at it. Incant abilities trigger an additional time. Let's just go back. We can jump back to where we were. So let's look at what Incant is. Where's the first Incant unit we'll find? Here's an easy one. Guard of the Unnamed. Incant, gain armor 3. So Incant is a trigger. It triggers when you cast a spell on this floor. So it's synergy for spell casting. If you cast a spell on the same floor that the Guard of the Unnamed is summoned into, his Incant trigger will fire. If you're able to get a lot of spells with low cost or 0 cost, especially 0, you might be able to trigger this many times in a single turn. It combos well with card draw as well. If you can, some of the boss upgrades like the Light of Seraph, I think it's called, which gives you +1 card per turn. Or the Wildwood Custodian, which also, it's a unit in the Awoken clan, which allows you to draw more cards. that can allow you to incant more frequently. So here's another. Glacial Seal is a totem unit. Totem units are weak, or don't attack by default. They don't take up much capacity, so only one capacity. And it does AoE Frostbite. So they're usually put in the back lines. They're not like frontline defenders, but their triggers can cause interesting things to happen. All right, so back to Founding Seal. Incant triggers an additional time. So anytime Incant happens once, it happens again. I think there's a chance this is overpowered still, because some of the Incant triggers are pretty good. So doubling them every single time, and sometimes with certain decks you can get a lot of zero-cost spells, it can kind of get out of hand. So we'll see if we end up having to nerf that, but it feels great when you get this. All right. Icicle Fracture. At the end of the turn, apply Frozen to a random card in your hand. Frozen is another mechanic that it's not unique to the Stygian Guard. You can get the Permafrost upgrade. That's in the public beta right now. But basically, Frozen means this card will not be discarded at the end of the turn. So this will help you build up a bunch of cards in hand that you can hold on to. And how does this synergize with this clan specifically? Well, one obvious way, I think, is the offering mechanic. So, you may not have the discard enabler in your hand, but if you have an offering card that's frozen, it can just sit there and wait until the enabler shows up, and then, boom, you can get the free cast, basically, from offering by discarding the card. So that's kind of the idea with that one. Rules of Containment. Enemy units enter with Frostbite 3. So this is great for killing like weak enemies on the first floor. Like I was saying, like they just come in, they all get Frostbite applied. If they have 3 or less health, they're dead just when you hit end turn without having to do anything else. And if you also get Cuddlebeard at the same time, they're going to get 5 Frostbite instead. So nice little combo with that. All right, Mr. Bimo asks, can you give a spell offering? Just to take a quick break. No, you can't right now, but that would be cool. Like, that's a great idea. I don't think we've talked about that, but giving a spell offering via a merchant upgrade would be an interesting thing to offer, specifically if you're playing the Stygian Guard. So I like that idea. Kojuhan asks, what is Pyre Bound? All right, let's go back. That was another thing. Another Stygian. I think it might only be in the Stygian Guard. That might be wrong, but Pyre Bound, here we go. Ice and Pyre can only be played in the Pyre Room, which is pretty rare for people to cast spells in the Pyre Room, but there can be reasons to, and the floor below it, so the third floor. And so the idea for Pyre Bound units is they're strong, but they have the limitation for where you can use them. So that is what Pyre Bound is. There's at least one more, I think, in this clan. There we go. Siren Song. This one, I think, is quite strong if you use it correctly. This is another thing. Like, Pyre Bound cards are cards that you want to get frozen on, because timing, like, having them in your hand when you need them is something that's, like, sometimes hard, right? Because you can only cast them under restricted circumstances, so freezing them can be very useful. So this one ascends all enemy units in the floor and applies Daze 3. So it pulls them all into the Pyre Room with Daze 3, and if they're going to get killed by the Pyre within that many turns, then they're dead with no damage to you. So Siren Song, pretty good card. All right. Giovanni Cujo says, would this be a good idea for an artifact? An Awoken Relic artifact that increases damage of stings and gives them Consume. There's something like that, right? Yeah, there's a bug in the public beta where you can't give Sting card -1 Ember from the merchant and then get this, and the Ember cost will still be 1 instead of 0, but that's fixed in the full game. But Channel Heart gives them plus 25 magic power and makes them cost +1, so that's kind of the same idea. I mean, certainly it's not the same outcome in terms of how it affects your play, and giving them Consume might actually be better for the player, because especially with like Vine Mother, over longer battles your hand can get really junked up with stings, but I think Channel Heart is kind of that idea. There's also Thorn Casing. Both of these are in the public beta. The tuning might have changed. I can't remember exactly what it was back then, but Sting spells get +10 magic power and piercing. All right, jumping back to our Stygian Guard artifacts just to go through them. We've got Sigiled Seaweed. 50% chance to apply silence when an enemy unit enters your train. Another mechanic we didn't talk about. So what does silence do? Disables triggered abilities. So this used to be 100%, but it was ridiculously overpowered. There's a lot of enemies that get powered up somehow via triggers. Like, for example, if anything dies in the room that the enemy's in, then it gains armor. Or if it gets a kill, it has a slay trigger where it gets rage, and then the enemy gets stronger. So if an enemy is silenced, those triggers just don't happen at all. So it completely nullifies their additional bonus effects, which can be quite good. So there's also a card that applies silence. All right. Tethys' scales. Frostbite does not decay. So going all the way back to that question, I can't see who said it, sorry. But yes, just like we're showing everyone, is it collection of tails. Rage does not decay on friendly units. There is a Frostbite version of that, which is also great. All right, Titan's Claws. At the end of every turn, frozen cards get -1 Ember. So this combos with the freezing mechanic, where you can get free, or over time you can get free casts of expensive things. So you could put permafrost on a card. So let's say even something from the Hellhorned. One-Horn's Tome. That we've had to nerf this over and over and over for being too powerful. So it has Consume, and it gives you multi-strike, and it now costs 5 Ember. But if you, for example, put the permafrost upgrade on that, and you had that artifact we were just looking at, then every turn its cost would go down, which might enable you to cast it in decks that otherwise have a hard time getting to 5 Ember in a turn. All right, last two, and then I'll jump back to the questions. So, Token of a Traitor. Every time you play a spell, deal 2 damage to a random enemy unit on that floor. Nice when you combo with lots of zero-cost spells. Combos nicely with Sting, Sting as a zero-cost spell that you can generate a lot of. Finally, Totem Fragment applies spell weakness 2 to enemy units when they enter the floor below the Pyre room. So this is, again, like Pyre Bound, a reason to focus your energies more on the higher levels of your train. This is an opportunity to hit them with big spells to try to get that multiplier on them, and get rid of them before they're able to get into the Pyre. All right. I am going to jump back at the questions in just a sec, but like as a high-level kind of thing, I think now we've covered everything. I mean, we didn't look at every card. Like, here's Unnamed Tome, applies silence to enemy units. We were just talking about silence. But I believe those are all the mechanics, the key kind of mechanics within the Stygian Guard. Here's Preserve, also draw 1 card and apply Frozen to any card in your hand. So I believe you pick. I'm pretty sure. Can't remember. Might have to use it, but I'm pretty sure you pick, which can be, again, helpful for some of those combos we looked at. All right. King of Sword asks, have you considered stings generated in battle consume? I don't know what you mean by that, so if you could clarify your question, I'd appreciate it. Half Grin asks, are there any cards for sacrificing your own monsters besides the imp ones? Yes, there are, and I can't show them today. There's at least one in the Melting Remnant clan is the name of the 5th clan that's here in the list at the end, that has like the death theme, so there are ways to kill your own units in that for benefits. Z4TT1C Zatic maybe says champion upgrade path. Yeah, so that's something that's not currently in the logbook. You can't see the champion upgrade paths. That's probably like the number one thing we're considering. Like, there's a lot of things we want to add to the logbook right now before we launch the game, but that's probably the one that's most likely to get added, so that we could see that information here. So we can't see it here, but I know what they are from memory. So the 3 upgrade paths for Tethys Titan's Bane are, number 1, in the room that Tethys is deployed into, any spell that deals damage has its Ember cost reduced, and then that's first by 1, and then by 2, and then by 3. So some of these big damage cards over here, like Ice Tornado, which deals 15 damage to a random enemy unit 3 times, which benefits really well from magic power. If you go all the way down that champion upgrade path, this will cost 0 if you cast it in the same room as the champion. So, and that also combos with Incant, right? Because anytime you cast anything, if you add another Incant unit in that room, you get the benefit of it. The next one is a Frostbite focused upgrade path. So I forget exactly if it's like, it might be sweep or it might not be sweep. I can't remember, but it's a apply Frostbite upgrade path essentially for Frostbite oriented strategies. And then the last one is spell weakness. So it's a way to get spell weakness onto enemies via attacks. And again, it might have sweep so that it's an AoE against all of the enemies in the room. So Tethys Titan's Bane is kind of like it's one capacity. Its base stats are really low. So it's much more about enabling various spell casting strategies and Frostbite strategies than it is about like being the frontline, attacker like we've seen in some of the other clans, for example. All right. Follow-up person, Uniquisher says, I think he means that the stings you get from the Vine Chick card, would you consider adding the consume modifier to them? Yeah, I mean, we'll consider anything. So you're talking about Vine Mother. Let's see, right here. Resolve, add a sting spell to your hand. Yeah, these can clog your deck. I mean, if you have 2 Vine Mothers and you're in a battle that goes for like 10 turns, you're going to have a lot of stings in your deck. And that can be bad. I guess... Yeah, is it so bad that this card is bad, or is it just something you have to play around? I don't know. I can't answer that right now on the stream, I guess. Like, I'm not sure. But it's a worthy question to be asking. If Vine Mother is ultimately, not beneficial in most decks, or like almost all decks, because of the fact that those things don't have consume, then sure, we could consider putting it on there for sure. All right, Dusk Boomspell asks, are you ever planning on making references to the devs as cards at some point? No, I don't think so. We added one more clanless card. It's kind of an Easter egg. I'm not going to show it on the stream, but there's a new clanless card that was added in the last week or so that's a reference to one of our previous games at Shiny Shoe. So, yeah, that's probably the closest thing to a developer reference. So you'll have to look for it when the full game comes out. All right. Will you... Okay. Yep, there we go. Mento Iori. Sorry if I'm butchering that. Will you add a displayed game timer for speed runs? A displayed game timer. You mean in Hell Rush? Or you just mean speed runs in general? So if you just mean speed runs in general... sure. Yeah, we'd be happy to support the speed running community. We haven't put that in the game and didn't have specific plans to, but yeah, I guess like what I would want to know is getting like a consensus from people in the speedrunning community as to what would be like, how do you want that to look? What would be helpful? And then, yeah, we'd be happy to consider supporting that. All right, QWERTY League of Legends asks, are there any plans to add a way to reset your turn for when you have misclicked a card or want to try out multiple plays? Right now, no. So I think the concept of an undo is interesting and could be player friendly. I mean, the misclick thing, we have improved that. So there's been people mentioning this about like sometimes, especially in crowded rooms, it's hard to target certain units. There was just a bug basically where like the hitboxes, so to speak, the regions for where you're aiming at certain units were overlapping in a way that caused problems. So that's been improved, I think, significantly in the full version of the game. So hopefully misclicks are less likely, but there's not going to be a way to undo. All right. Maske says, I see the amount of event relics hasn't really changed. Since when? What's in the beta? Does this mean that events are mostly limited to what we know already? No, there's more. There's like double the amount in the full game than there are in the public beta, but not all of them give out artifacts, right? Some of them do different things. So you'll just have to see. Yeah. Cryors the Dragon. Will there be more bosses or even something past the initial end if, for example, you finish with all clans as mains? So yeah, there's 8 more bosses in the full version of the game. There are still 8 battles per run, but there are different bosses that do different things that we've added since the public beta. So we think it adds a good amount of variety, both gameplay mechanics wise and visual. But yeah, the first battle, the second battle, the fourth battle, the fifth battle, and the seventh battle, all of those have more boss variations that can show up that do slightly different things. And then kind of you have to counterplay around them. With regards to if you finish with all clans as mains, this is something that we've shown before. But here, let me go to this progress tracker, and I've been using cheats locally that are available to the dev team, so my game's in a weird state kind of. But this is the progress tracking page in the logbook. So this tracks all 5 clans, what level you are on them. Have you discovered all of the cards in that clan? Have you mastered all of the cards in the clan? To master a card, you have to win at least Covenant level 1 with those cards in your deck. When you master them, they turn gold in this little list here. So your goal is to make all of these gray cards turn gold. And if you haven't discovered certain cards or you haven't unlocked them yet, then they would show up as slightly differently here too. And then the other thing we're tracking is your victories. So this is, have you won with Hellhorn Main Awoken as your ally clan? Have you won with Hellhorn Main Stygian Guard as your ally clan, and so on? And so all 20, these are all the 20 combinations here, these flags. And when one of these flags lights up, that kind of indicates that you won with them. And then what happens after that is below here, it'll show you at what Covenant level you've won with it. So the ultimate expression of mastery of the game is to fill in all 20 of these clan combinations, win all of them on Covenant level 25, master all of the cards, and then here on the left is the Covenant rank of you and your friends. So I have not actually done Covenant 25. This is me here. I've just cheated to have it say that. And if you beat Covenant 25, it goes up one more level and you get a little what do I want to say, a crown there. But yeah, some of my other friends and people on the dev team are here on the side, so this will show you and how you compare it to your friends. But yeah, that's kind of the ultimate goal for what you are trying to accomplish in single player, at least, is kind of fill this thing completely out. All right, where was I? Kojahan says, why are your cards all silver? Where is that dev playing his own game 24/7 in an hour? Yeah, I've played the game for hundreds of hours, but I reset my save data all the time. So, like I said, I haven't gotten to Covenant 25, and just this morning I reset it again and then used cheats to kind of give me access to everything so that we could be set up for the stream. But that's something really common that we have to do on the dev team. So I'm personally looking forward to when the game actually comes out and I can play it online with all of you and can keep my progress rather than having to reset it all the time. All right. King Shotgun CAC 13. Did you scrap any clan ideas? And if so, do you have any plans to add it down the line? Yeah, I think there's a variety of additional clan concepts that we have kicking around. And if you have any that you think are cool, please share them on Discord. If anyone's not in our Discord, it's discord.gg/monstertrain. Yeah, I think that's another great way to expand the game. It's a lot of work to add a new monster clan, but obviously it adds a lot of new things to do for the player and a lot of new kind of strategic combinations and possibilities. So I would love to add another one if we can. Halfgrin says, while there is a win streak counter, where's my losing streak counter? I want to at least excel at something. I like that. I think we had something like that. At the end of a run now, we have this little stats display in the full game. I think I may have shown that on a previous stream, where it picks some random stat that you accomplish, most damage ever done and so on. And I think there was a point when we had something that was or I think it was how fast did you lose the run? And it was pissing people off. So we actually ended up taking that out. But speaking of win streaks, briefly, we are definitely trying to put more attention on that. So I'll show what the latest clan select UI looks like now. And win streaks show up actually in multiple places, but we put them in clan select right here. So, and we kind of modified how win streaks work. They used to be kind of separated per clan combination. So there was like 20 different win streaks, and we thought that was just too complicated. So there's just one win streak stat now. So it counts how many times you win in a row without losing or restarting. This is like we see this as a elder game, like end game. If you've played the game a ton and you want to keep challenging yourself, win streaks are the thing you can do. It shows me just here. This is just a reminder that I have not won, like I said, I just reset my save data, but I haven't won a run with this clan combination yet. If you had one, it would tell you at what covenant level you've won on. Another new feature here briefly that we're still working on to make it look a little nicer, but was asked for a bunch of times. You can just hit random and you'll just get a random primary and allied clan, which can be fun as a way to kind of challenge yourself, especially if you're trying to keep a win streak up and not know and not be able to just pick your favorites. And then the other place we added win streaks is in Game Over. Every time you go from like one win streak to the next, if you just win a run and you hadn't won one, it would go from 0 to 1. If you win another, it'd go 1 to 2. It's just a way to remind you that you're improving. That wasn't really exposed in the past, even though we were tracking that data. All right, Medkit757 asks, is the player part of the narrative or does the player play as one of the characters? So you are playing as the Clans of Hell. So no, the player is not a part of the narrative. You are just the invisible hand guiding the Clans of Hell that you are selecting for your run. All right, Masmaske asks, would you consider having a pure run with only Hellborn or Awoken cards for challenge reasons? Yeah, that came up as like a mutator idea, I think, on the last stream, which was, no allied clan, basically. And so we're thinking about that. No specific plans to announce at this time about doing it, but I think it's interesting. It would certainly be different. Like, I would guess it might be easier. I'm not sure. Like, it would depend on how we manifest how it works, I guess. But, within a clan, there's a lot of synergies. And, like, part of the challenge is making two clans work together to synergize in interesting ways. So if every card draft and every artifact reward is from the same clan, it would probably be easier than the game is right now, because you'd, like, get those strong synergies more frequently. Gizzard King asks, what is the coolest card not in the beta? Well, super subjective, but let's see. Of the ones that I can talk about today, let me think. In terms of card animation, one of my favorites is Dark Deal. So we updated how this looks from the public beta. See those hands shaking right there? I don't know. I get a kick out of that. I really like how that looks. I don't think it's my favorite card, though, in terms of mechanics. That's for sure. All right. The coolest card. Let's pick something from Stygian. Well, let's see. What would I choose if I was going to choose a card from Stygian? This is a card that's very hard to use, I find, but it can be extremely good. So, Hoarfrost Effigy. Transfer all Frostbite on this floor to a unit, then double the amount of Frostbite. So, if you're able, like, if you can get a room of enemies with a bunch of Frostbite on them, you can basically, like, suck it away from the ones you don't care about and put it all onto, like, a boss, for example. This can be a way to stack up Frostbite very quickly on a boss, and Frostbite is extremely good in Relentless mode, because after every round of boss Relentless combat where the boss hits you and you hit back, Frostbite triggers again and again and again and again. So if you can get high Frostbite on a boss, it can be super devastating. So although Hoarfrost Effigy can be tough to use, which I think makes it interesting and cool, it can be really powerful. So that's my choice for today. I do like that card. All right. Yep. Okay, we got a few more questions to answer, and then I got to wrap up. But you can hear my voice is getting messed up already here. Fortanak asks, how does Covenant work with the random rolls for Clan and Allied? It's just separate, so you just choose what Covenant level you want. There's no random Covenants level selection. So, if you wanted Covenant rank 1, or I don't think we've shown what higher levels of the Covenant do. So here's a preview. Here's Covenant rank 2. Some basic enemies have additional attacks. So not super exciting, but it is a ramp up in difficulty, and it kind of goes from there. And it's not everything. It's just little stat-based upgrades. There are things that like dramatically change how you have to think about your deployment strategy for units and so on. We could add a random Covenant level if people wanted that, but I think the most demanded or most requested thing here was for clans, so that's why we added that. And we're going to make this question mark look cooler. That's being worked on right now. And Fox asked about Covenant 2, so there you go. Shisaloy says, could there be a modifier for a tertiary clan to water the card pool even more? Yeah, that's another concept that theoretically could work, and that would probably make the game harder since not all things synergize. We're trying to, and it's definitely possible to beat the game on every clan combination, all 20 of them. And we have seen some players in our private beta have gotten up to like, people have gotten Covenant 25, so that's happened. And I'm not sure if that's happened on all clans yet, but there's definitely people in like the 20s on all clan combinations now. So it's definitely possible. But yeah, we're still like working a lot on balance right now and trying to figure out what needs to be modified, what needs to be buffed, what needs to be nerfed, and so on. And using both player feedback and data to help guide us on that. Yeah, I guess we're going to call it there. I do have one other announcement, I guess, that I wanted to bring up about a feature that we're going to do. And it's not done yet, so I can't show it to you, but I'm confident enough that it's going to get done that I wanted to mention it. So, I won't start a run, but one of the most requested features in the public beta recently has been the ability to see the map from anywhere. So if you imagine you're in a Concealed Caverns event, or if you are in battle and for some reason you want to look at the map, or like you're picking your rewards after victory and you want to see what upcoming merchants are and so on. Right now there's no way to do that. So we are going to add that. So I hope that will make a lot of people happy. I mean, I've wanted that sometimes, especially when deciding to take a trial. I think it comes up then. So right now when you're in the battle intro screen, you can't, I'll switch over to head cam. You can't go back to look at the map to see what might be coming up in the next section. So that's going to be added to the game, and I hope will be a nice addition, and I hope you guys will like it. All right, so I got to wrap up. I'm losing my voice. If you want to see more about the game, check out themonstertrain.com or our Discord at discord.gg/monstertrain. And yeah, we'll be releasing in some